Hi, I'm Jess. Today we're opening up on Ceremony for enthusiasts, iconoclasts, anarchists, and you. So I'm really, really excited today. I've invited one of my a groom from a couple of years ago called Gareth Tanner, who's also an artist. I wanted to catch up with him and find out. Well, I'm catching up with all of my couples, but I really wanted to find out from him how the ceremony had changed his life and whether doing his art subsequently has been a direct result of that process. So I'm just waiting for him to come on now. I've not seen him since the Happy Day, and he's brilliant fun. His art I remember we had this conversation about his art, and he wanted a studio in his back garden, and he was doing this thing of not putting it first, not prioritizing the thing that gave him joy. And we had a really long conversation about it. And then he had pagan beliefs, and when we did the ceremony, we made sure that he had those pagan beliefs represented. And I just remember so clearly saying, I need you to promise me that you're going to go on holiday and you're going to do something around your art, either have a studio or just start painting again. And I need you to promise me you're going to do that because you've been putting yourself last for so long. And then I remember him saying, at the wedding ceremony, I got my beliefs represented in the Black country, where it's not really that common to just talk about your pagan beliefs in front of your brother. And he found the courage to do that and felt really affirmed in that, and really felt just, oh, I was allowed to be me. That was someone with a fancy car going past. So I just want to find out from my couples how the ceremony has impacted them, because I've got all sorts of theories around these things. So I've not spoken to him at all ahead of this. So you and I are doing this together, just to find out, the truth about what it was like for him and how he is. So this is a really unedited, raw version of my podcast. It's just us and whatever comes up in the moment, which might well be that he can't log on. Having been a celebrant since 2013, I've done loads and loads and loads of ceremonies, and quite a lot of the people that I've worked with, I've stayed in touch with. Like, almost all of them, actually, because of social media. And I might not have a great deal of contact with them, but I know that at any point I could. And so I got to thinking, you make a lot of assumptions about the work that you do, and you also forget about the impact of the work that you do. So it's like a retrospective. Oh, here he is. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
I was just talking about you to our listeners. You're
All
being,
good.
yeah, all good. You're being recorded. Is that all right?
Absolutely fine.
So
It's
I've not
absolutely
seen you
fine.
for, what, 2 years?
2 years, yeah. The last time we spoke was 2 years ago. Yeah, just not long after my mum passed.
So you've had 2
Yeah.
years of that and the grief of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then now you're just painting. You're just
Oh yeah,
painting non-stop.
I'm doing a lot of painting. Probably do 2 paintings, 3 paintings a month. In my spare time.
Which you
It's
don't
not
have
a
a lot of.
Sorry.
You don't have a lot of spare time.
Well, I try to make the most of it. Obviously I'm working full time, and my spare time is for doing stuff around here, obviously. But when I get the chance, I'll do in the week. I'll probably try and get an hour in a day, and the weekend I get more time to do my paintings. I'm usually in my little studio, if you want to call it that, which is basically the full room. Um, 3-4 hours of a weekend.
Oh my God. I was just telling my listeners that you and I had a conversation in that cafe where we met to talk about your wedding. And at the time, Mum was dying and you had caring responsibilities and you were putting yourself last with everybody. We had this conversation and I remember saying, I want you to promise me that you'll go on holiday and you'll sort out your art studio. But I never
Yeah,
thought
I
you'd
mean,
actually do it, and you did.
it's not the biggest space, but you don't need a lot of space, I suppose, for what I do. Just room for my easel, my paints, and
Can you
you
show
know.
us?
Sorry?
Can you show us your studio or not?
I'm in the other room, and I'm at the
Oh,
other end of the house at the moment.
so
It's a
cute.
bit of a mess, so I don't really want to show it at the moment. Art studios are generally messy, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
That's the joy of them, isn't it? In fact, you've inspired me because I would quite like to get back to my painting, and I'm not quite sure how to go about it. But I was
Mine
just
should
really
be.
struck that you did it, and I just, oh, every time I see your TikTok, and I've only just started going on TikTok a bit more, but
Yeah.
you've got really into your TikToks, and I love them, and I always look and think, he bloody did it. He actually did it because at the time you were, oh, I don't know, I haven't got the time. I don't know what it is. I just can't get on with it, and
I thi I think a lot of the time, if you want to, you can make the time. You know, you know, it's an excuse sometimes to say I haven't got the time. You know, even just half an hour or an hour of an evening, that's enough. You know, and for me, art's very therapeutic. Because I've had my, you see, like mental health issues in the past, and I find art is a great therapy for that sort of thing. Calms the mind, sort of thing. I find it very peaceful. Although
amazing.
it can be a bit frustrating sometimes when you get a line wrong or whatever, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. You know, some people will look at my paintings and go, "That's really good," and I'll go, "No, it's not. That bit's wrong there, that little bit there." And what? You know?
Yeah, I
But,
think they're amazing.
I do find it very
Well,
therapeutic.
apparently, I heard a podcast. There's science around it, but when you do creative work, it makes the right hand side of your brain work. And
Right.
normally, if you're stuck in this side of your brain, it's stress and anxiety and fear. But this side of the brain is creativity and imagination, and it calms down your nervous system. So,
Yeah, I mean, my issues have been stress related in the past, and I've suffered with depression and all sorts, but I really do find I've had I've done all things. I've been to the doctor, I've had counselling. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm ready for sectioning, but, I've found that art is definitely the biggest healer, if you like.
really,
Focuses you.
of all the things you went through, that's the biggest thing.
Yes, definitely,
Wow.
definitely. I'd recommend it to anyone. Practice some sort of craft or art or anything like that, you know, any form of self-expression, if you like, is certainly it's a great healer. I wouldn't recommend it enough.
So, when did you
Yeah.
start properly dedicating your time to it?
3, 4 years ago, I started. 'Cause I've always been into art. I've always done some form of art, but only little bits and pieces. When I was younger, I used to like do a lot of pencil drawings, and many years ago, when I was 15, I think, I actually won a competition and I had a painting put in Wolverhampton Art Gallery for a short time. Um, it's just something I've never been a studious type. I always wanted to work with my hands, which relates to my job a lot actually, 'cause I'm an engineer. More practical than anything else. So I want to be creating something. It's just what I love to do,
Would
basically.
you have gone to art college if you'd been born in a different family, different time, different culture?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
My eldest, Chloe, she went to art college for a short time. She's a bit frustrating because she's actually really talented. I've always said she's better than me as an artist, but that's subjective. But some of her drawing is absolutely amazing. She went to art college, but the problem with that is she's quite kind of a free spirit, and she didn't like being told which way, "Oh, you're doing this little bit of a drawing wrong, or you're doing that little bit." That's how I do it. That's what she was like, you know. She found that sort of thing of having stuff drilled into her a bit restrictive, and I'd be the same, to be honest with you. You like to do it your way, you
Well,
know.
it's self-expression, so that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, I've met a lot of good people online, on TikTok, as you say, and things like that, and on other apps. I've got a few friends who are artists, full-time artists, some of them, part-time, people who are just trying to make it in the art world. I'm not as um, serious about it than other people. If it happens, it happens. You know, I do sell some paintings once in a while,
Really?
and yeah, and I have asked people have asked me to do them things for them.
Oh, man.
Um, Not my usual stuff, but I'll still do it. You know.
I loved your self-portrait, and I was looking back through your feed just now, and it looks
Yeah,
like you started that a couple of years back.
I did. Yeah. Took a while to finish. It's not my thing normally. I'm more of a landscape artist, if you like, but I have done 3 portraits for people in the past. The last one was a couple of years ago. I put myself under a bit of pressure for that because it was of a girl and her father who passed away. Someone had asked me to do it for him, and that was you know, that's a bit of you put yourself under a bit of pressure wanting to get it right for them. Normally, I'm not under any kind of pressure sort of thing because I'm just doing what I think is right. When you're actually doing something like that, a portrait for a girl whose father's passed, it's got to be right because it's a dad at the end of the day, and it's got to be perfect for them. Happily, they were pleased with it, so but that took me quite a while to do.
Yeah, I can
Mm.
understand that.
I do plan on doing more portraits in the future, and I like doing sort of limited palette stuff, you know, like my self-portrait was basically indigo and black, and that was it.
That's what I
I
loved
like that
about
sort
it.
of thing.
Really, I just
It
thought it
kind
was
of makes you
amazing.
think of other things, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, of course. You just seem so dedicated to it and so passionate about it, and
oh yeah,
it's
definitely. It's
beautiful.
always been my passion, art, and I've only recently got into it more. Um, yeah, it's always been something I've been into, but just lately, you know, it's the therapeutic side of it as well, you know.
And is your mental health significantly better than when we met?
Uh, yes.
Wow, I'm
Yeah.
so happy
I
for
mean, I'm not kidding myself. It comes and goes in waves, if you like. But I've kind of approached it with a sense of humor now, and I accept it for what it is because I'm never going to be any different. You know, I've always had issues since I was a child. They used to be a lot worse, but now I'm older and wiser, if you like. Well, you know, it's just another part of me, if you like. You know,
exactly, and just
don't
when
get me
grief.
wrong, I haven't had any problems lately. Still get the odd bit of anxiety, but I think that's normal for a lot of people, you know.
But it's
So
just not as
it is.
serious or as heavy.
I try not to make it as serious as every if you like. It's just, as I say, it's just a part of me, and I accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
Part of my character, if you like, my personality.
And
You
that's
know.
partly why you paint, so it can't be a bad thing
Yeah,
in a way. Yeah.
yeah,
So tell
exactly.
me how um you feel since the wedding, and talk to me a bit about the wedding, because I don't very often sit down with my couples a couple of years. Well, I haven't done this before. A couple of years later and say, what did it mean to you? What was special about it? Did it change your life
Oh,
in
it
any way?
meant everything. It meant everything. I mean, I sound like I've had a terrible life. But we had a few bad years, me and Lisa. I
Beforehand?
mean, we've been engaged for quite a few years, but we never got round to the wedding. We never got time for the wedding. It just always put on the back burner, if you like. But Lisa had both of her parents die within a space of a few years. So it was pretty rough. And then my mum became ill. Um, And we just decided we wanted to do some after Lisa's dad passed, we wanted to do something to bring a bit of sunshine, if you like. And, luckily, my mom was still here to see the wedding. I don't think you actually did you? I don't think you actually met my mom at the wedding.
No. Well,
Because she went, she came and she saw us get married at the registry office. She came for the meal, but then she had to go obviously because she wasn't feeling too good. But the wedding itself, I remember Lisa saying to me when we were planning it, I want to do it how you want it, to me. And I said, well, it's not just my wedding, it's yours as well. He says, yeah, but, you know, she had been married before. She said, this is yours. I said, we had a little bit of a tiff about it, about that sort of thing, you know, but she knew my beliefs, and obviously the actual day itself was based around what I believe in, if you like. I've got nature-based spirituality, if you like, if you want to call it that. I don't necessarily like to call it. I don't like to give it a label. You know, it is what it is. But the actual day was absolutely fabulous. I mean, it was fabulous. A lot of the people who came to the wedding said it was one of the best days out they've ever had because it was different. It wasn't your standard wedding, and I think the celebrant was excellent as well. You know,
She
um,
wasn't bad.
no, you
She
were
looked like
really
she'd
good,
done it
honestly.
before.
I actually said when we were performing the ceremony in the woods that when you were talking about us as a family, I don't know how you got so much of us in a nutshell because although we had a few meetings before, there were certain things we hadn't told you and you just knew, you know? And it was like, I don't know, very perceptive. I don't know how you got it. I don't know how you got it. It was absolutely brilliant.
I don't know how I
What you
do it
said.
either. It's just a weird thing I seem to be able to do. I've always been able to do it. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's to do with growing up in an alcoholic family where you're really good at reading people. It might be something really bad. It became something really good. But also I'm just really passionate about people and I was
Yeah.
passionate about you and your story and I think I just
It
got to
was
know.
it definitely showed. I mean, there was the other thing as well, the actual ceremony you did in the woods with calling down the elements, if you like, and things like that, and the hand fasting. There was a lot of people in the crowd, the audience, if you like, who didn't know that side of me, you know, so that was like a release for me. It was like when you started talking about one of the first things you said was Gareth is pagan. And you know, and it was like, I haven't hidden the fact that those are my beliefs, if you like. It's just I've never told people. I can be open, but then on the other side of it, I can be quite private. And I like to keep things to myself. I don't like to preach to people about certain things, you know, but people believe what they believe. People don't believe, people do believe. It's entirely up to them. And when you started talking about calling down the elements, it was a big release for me, if you like. It was like, for want of a better phrase, like a coming out. Because those people just didn't know that about me before. And 99% of people, I suppose, in a way, sometimes you're a bit afraid of how people are going to react to what you think. Everyone was fine with it, and they loved it. They loved the ceremony because it was different. It wasn't your standard wedding ceremony. Lisa loved it, although Lisa is a Christian. She absolutely loved it. My daughter walking through the woods, my oldest. Forget what she was doing there. Was she throwing flowers or no? She was sage burning, wasn't she? Yeah, that's it exactly. And it was just a great day for everyone. And the way you performed it was marvelous. It really was.
I loved it. And I've got photographs of there's one photograph of me that I put on my website when I saw Lisa after.
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Ah!"
another one, me and you. I've got that photo. I've got that photo because the joy in your face was fantastic. It was absolutely
I only get
fantastic.
the days where I wanna give up, and then I look at things like that and think, I can't." But then I saw also this photographs of us. It was quite a weird time, wasn't it? Because we weren't that fresh out of COVID, and we were
No.
in that beautiful woodland, and there's sunlight through the photographs that we've got.
Oh,
I'll try and put them on somehow. I don't know how to do it. I'll ask Jack, my editor. But I've got Dreamcatcher. There's a Dreamcatcher, and then the sun is
mm,
coming straight through, isn't
yeah.
it? Onto
Yeah,
that.
because we had the dream catches on the arch with us stood in, and it was just beautiful dapple sunshine. It was a beautiful day all round because obviously it's an outdoor ceremony. You can turn British weather. You think, you know, what's the weather going to be like? It was absolutely stunning. It was beautiful.
It was such a
Yeah,
relief after all the misery we'd all been through.
yeah, yeah. It was
Um,
excellent.
and it was beautiful. And how's Beth?
She's fine. She's absolutely fine. Growing up,
Oh, she must be
teenage
quite tall by
attitude.
now. I think she was quite
She's
tall
taller than her
earlier.
mom.
Is she?
She's taller than her mom.
Oh,
So yeah, she's growing up fast.
she's lovely.
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
your kids are lovely. And how's Lisa getting on?
She's doing fine. She's in a different job now. She's working mostly 4 days a week at home. So she works from home. She's got a little office set up, and she only has to go into the office once a week. Working for Walsall Kent, for Walsall Education. Um,
I think she would have
basically,
started that. Was it shortly after the wedding that she
I
felt?
think she probably did. Yeah. Obviously she used to be a teacher, but now she's still in with the education, but on a different level, and very dedicated to her work. I mean, I'll come out from work some days and she'll be still working. I'll say, "When are you going to finish?" She'll
That's why
start
it's
work at
helpful
9.
having a partner that calls you to account. Otherwise, you should probably work all night.
Oh, she would.
I do
I'm
that.
sure she'd work until 10 o'clock at night if I didn't say, "Come on, do you want something to eat?" You
Do
know,
the food in your house.
I do most of the time, yeah. I like cooking.
Yeah,
So
I thought so.
most of
Remember
the
that.
time I do the dinners. That's our routine, you know. So and she works on a Sunday as well, so I do the Sunday dinner and you know,
You're like a
very
modern
hard
pair.
working. Very hard working,
Well,
yeah.
you both are. And do you think having the wedding and having the ceremony, like you said, it was quite liberating. It was a bit like coming out.
Yeah.
And, your context isn't like a woo family or a really kind of bohemian family. You're like your black country, working class background. That's not really where you say, oh, I'm a pagan. It is quite, I think for people that are listening who don't know that, it is quite a big deal that Gareth said that
It
and did
is,
that.
yeah, because someone once said, someone once called me strange. Said it's strange you are the way you think. And it didn't bother me at all. I was like, that's your thoughts. I mean, it doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me what people think. It, in one respect, but then you've got, people are quite conservative in their ways of thinking. A lot, I think a lot of the time, and but it does surprise me sometimes when you talk to people about it, how accepting of it they are. You
Yeah,
know,
because we make assumptions, don't we, about how people will
we do.
receive things. So,
Yes,
do
we
you
do.
think that you're having the ceremony and putting the love and attention and time and money into that occasion that prioritized you as a couple? Do you think that
Yes,
changed your life in any way?
I think it did. Yeah, it was kind of a new dawn, if you like, and it was a breaking away from quite a rough few years with family. We needed something to, as I said before, something to celebrate and just have a great time because it was like a fresh start, if you like. And then at the time, we just got my mom to look after, who took a lot of looking after, if you like. But it wasn't long after that she actually passed. So the timing of it was, I remember taking my mom to the hospital when she saw the consultant the first time, and the consultant basically told her she got limited time. And she said the first thing she said was, "Will I be here for Gareth's wedding?" And yeah, and that's all she was bothered about. And the consultant says, "Yeah, I think you'll still be here then. We've got to manage the situation." Unfortunately, because of my mum's other issues, she got cancer basically. Because of her other issues, they couldn't operate. She was unhealthy in many other ways, so she might not have made it through the operation, sort of thing. But after we'd been to the hospital or the initial shock, she was diabetic, my mum, and we went to Costa Coffee. And we sat there, and she said, "Oh, sorry, give me a big piece of cake, the sweetest cake you can find. She said, I'm just going to enjoy my time here." And she was pretty accepting of the situation. She said, "Well, we've all got to go," which is right. We've all got to go sooner or later.
Oh,
Just the
brilliant.
difference
What
in
kind
life.
of what piece of cake did she have?
I think it was a lemon tart or something like that. Yeah, I
Nice.
can't exactly remember. I think it was something with lemon in
That's a
anyway,
good choice.
definitely. She loved them. She loved the lemon tart.
I love
So,
that. How brilliant.
but
So, yeah,
she couldn't do it with anyone else, but she was able to talk quite straight about what was happening to her with me. I'd sit there and have a logical conversation, if you like, with her, and we'd talk about what she wanted at the funeral and stuff like that. Other people didn't want to talk about it, which is totally understandable. They didn't want to face it, if you like, but I could actually sit there, okay, you want this, you want that, and she said, this is what I want. I don't want people wearing black. She was quite, I think I get that characteristic from my mum, is that she was quite free-willed, if you like, and this is what I want, and I don't want tradition. She didn't like tradition and stuff like that, so I don't want people wearing black, which I think a lot of people do these days, you know. It's just it's a tradition which, uh, we follow, which we don't really need to follow. There's no reasonable, logical explanation for you gotta wear black. Why?
It's just Queen
You know?
Victoria, that's it.
It is exactly,
I
yeah,
just think it's so good that you had that, and the more so I have this story that I tell myself that I'd learned when I studied that and throughout my, like, my background, that ceremony is like a pivotal point in life.
yeah,
Whether it's birth, marriage, death, it's always a point of transition, and so a really good ceremony should take you from one place to the next, and
that's
there should,
exactly right, yeah.
yeah, and
Mm.
I don't know whether that's true. So I'm busy telling, because ceremony's kind of going out of fashion. So there's young people booking their weddings, and that it's all about the DJ, and it's about the photo booth and the wedding favors, and increasingly people are cutting down their budgets. So ceremonies are a little bit falling by the wayside. People aren't having
Yeah.
funerals either. So I got to the point where I thought, well, I believe this about my work, but is it true? And the reason I pressed record before I spoke to you is because I wanted to hear in real time what you actually thought, because I
Oh, yeah,
need to know.
I think it's, with, like you say, with ceremony, it's like, an ending of something and the starting of something new, if you like, and that part of my life, the wedding, if you like, it was like our big fresh start. The funeral of my mom was like, you know, the ending of her life, obviously, but it was like a new. Once my mum had gone, we got no parents left, so it was a new start, cycle of our life, if you like. Um, and I think you do need that. You know, and I do know that a lot of people are cutting out the ceremony part of things. I mean, you see these things for, you know, funeral arrangements or whatever, basic stuff, and you think, well, I think you need something rather than just, there you go, done. Let's
Yeah,
carry on.
I
You
mean,
you do
obviously,
need something to celebrate, if you like.
and I'm really biased, but I was thinking that if you had not had the ceremony in that woodland glade with the light and the dream catchers and all that declaration, it would have been an amazing party anyway. So people would come back to me and say, well, the wedding is the party. What do I need the ceremony bit for? But I would say that a wedding is just a party unless it has a ceremony. Otherwise, it's
That's
just
right.
a party, isn't it?
The ceremony was for me and Lisa. You know, the party afterwards was for everyone else. That was us thinking of ourselves. You know, that was our thing, and it was like, we needed it. You know, and I think a lot of people do need that. You know,
I
I mean,
love it.
this ceremony. You know, and as I say, the fact that it was based around my beliefs, if you like, all made it all the more special for me. You know, so
It felt very healing in the
um,
moment, didn't it? It seemed like a really healing experience.
oh, we definitely was, definitely was, yeah, yeah, and everyone participated into the ceremony. There were certain things people had to do and stuff like that, weren't there? And everyone enjoyed it so much. They really did, getting involved in it. And it was, from 99% of the people there. I did have a few other friends there who were pagan, if you like, for want of a better word. So they loved it. But the people who weren't, it was just so different for them. They absolutely were enthralled with it all, and the fact that they got involved in it, and it's not like your normal wedding, and it was just such a good experience for everyone,
I love that they
you
didn't feel
know?
uncomfortable. Like, for people that are listening, we did a hand fasting, but we used lots of different ribbons in the same colours, didn't we? And then each person tied a little
Yeah,
bit.
we've still got that, the hand fasting ribbon. It's hanging up in the front room
Is
in my
it?
studio, if you like.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm loving this conversation. It's just so nice to catch up with people afterwards. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how how you would feel about me sharing a little bit of your story, or is it too private?
Absolutely fine. Absolutely
Really?
fine.
I
Yeah.
might do that because I quite often I just make an assumption that it's somebody else's private story and it's their private vows, and people might not want me to share that. But
No.
increasingly, I think if I'm trying to tell people why it matters, it would be really nice for them to hear the kind of words that were used.
Yeah. Absolutely
Beautiful.
fine. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. I'm so grateful
Mm.
for your time, and I'm so pleased to
Um,
see you, and I love your work. I really love that self-portrait. I think you should do a bit more. Are there any
I
others?
do I do plan on doing a bit more, yeah, but, we'll see what I do next. I've got ideas in my head.
What's your favorite on your TikTok?
Oh, at my TikTok, um, if you look at the top, it's I think it's the middle one. Is that right? I'm not sure now.
Cannock Chase. So for those of you
Cannock
who
Chase.
don't know, that's a really beautiful place in the Midlands. I'm
Yeah.
calling this one finished. Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
that's
look,
the
I feel
one.
like I'm there.
That one took me about a month, maybe a bit longer because of the detail on the trees, the tree in the foreground in particular, and getting the light right. Um, Someone told me that once I'm good at catching light on my
Yeah,
painting.
I think
I
that's
don't
right.
I don't consciously try to do that. It's just something,
It's
I do.
interesting that it's a woodland and it's, going back to your pagan stuff.
Yeah.
Have you got
I've
an
got a thing about
inspiration?
doing.
Is there a particular artist that you're really inspired by?
I do. Well, I'm inspired by Claude Monet, although his work is totally different to what I do. I just love his work. I just love his work.
Do you like
It's nothing
Cezanne?
like it. I don't try and copy any other artist. I just do what I do. Just comes naturally, if you like. But Claude Monet's always had a special place for me.
Your work
And
reminds me of Cezanne and his
yeah,
woodlands.
I've been told that before,
Love
actually.
you. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
it's not something I've set out to do. It's just come naturally, that sort of thing. It takes you a while to actually find your style, if you like. A lot of people say I haven't got a style. They don't like to be categorized, if you like. But I think you can't help but go in that direction, if you like. It just happens. So
Always say to people that you won't know this. This is what's interesting about this conversation. I don't know that you've got that hand fasting thing, Ruben. I don't know any of that.
yeah,
Or that you love that photograph.
it's fantastic.
Which
Yeah,
is really, really nice. And someone said to me, "Well, you must be on more mantle shelves than anyone else with photos of the wedding." I mean, so many wedding pictures. I never thought about that either, but it's quite interesting just following up and thinking about the other side of things. And one thing I always say to my friends is that every single wedding couple and every single funeral family that I work with, they all give me a lesson. They all give me something that I take away and
mm,
incorporate into my life. And with
mm.
you, it's that art that you decided to do it and you went and did it. And I would quite like to paint again. So I think you're teaching me something.
Well, you certainly should do. I mean, I suppose it was a reaction to all the other stuff we had going on in our life. I needed that separation, that medicine, if you like, for want of a better word. And as I say, it's something I've always been interested in. I've always done, but only in brief spells before. But it sort of kicked off when my mum was ill. That's when it really started, and it's just built from there. And as practice, that's all it takes. You don't particularly need. People say, "Oh, you got the talent for that." I says, "99% of what I do is practice." Anyone can be an artist, in my opinion.
I think
Because
that's
we've all
well,
got the creative part of us. We've all got that in us. You just need to practice. It's as simple as that.
I'm with you. I completely agree with that. We all are
Yeah,
creative beasts.
yeah.
I'm going to stop recording because I just think that's a perfect time.